It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Thursday, November 6th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's looking to build on that Habs win and maybe address some Predators trade rumors.
All right, let's do it.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade, and I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 20 years, Russ Cohen. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com. You can win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials, and of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Again, the schedule is weird, so we're facing Nashville again pretty quickly.
That is quick.
Yeah, we are going to talk about what's been going on with them since we saw them like a week and a half ago, and some drama there with some trade rumors that maybe the Flyers can get involved with, maybe not. Plus, we're going to check in with a couple of prospects and see how they're doing, including Max Westergard, and checking in on Porter Martone because he's got a big game coming up this weekend for sure. But in the meantime, the Flyers are moving on from that big shootout win against Montreal. And we talked a lot on yesterday's show about how Rick Tocchet is handling this team as head coach in terms of, reinforcing the good, but trying to fix the things that aren't quite going right, and how he's talking about it and how he's showing or not showing frustration as the case may be. And, I think he is still, I think, communicating in a very forthright way in terms of what's going well and what's not. And I think that's good.
No, that is good. I mean, I think it's good to be as straight a shooter as you can with a fan base that is, going to put up with the pains of a rebuild. So I think it's only right.
Yeah. And you look at what you can take away from that win against Montreal. The big thing to me is that they didn't let Montreal getting back into it stop them. They didn't shut down. And I feel like some past Flyers teams might have shut down at that point and given up. And I feel like there's just a different attitude around the team now, and a high expectation that is self-driven as opposed to fear-driven, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I think there's different ways to motivate, and I think right now they're motivated the right way. You still don't like the way they gave up that lead. That's a whole other different story. Sure. But I agree with you.
Yeah, so Rick Tocchet said, after practice yesterday, before they took off to go to Nashville, that, his role is to kind of reinforce what has been going well. He did recognize that the power play did some good work, but still needs to continue to grow on there. But the thing that he pointed out, which, we talked about to some degree yesterday about Trevor Zegras and his particular passing has been excellent, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's shooting well and he's passing well, which is something, the Flyers need that from everybody across the board. But on that power play, that's a designed play that Trevor Zegras came up with that led to the goal that Bobby Brink scored, right?
That's good.
And that they're working on. And that's where I come from when I'm saying this is a self-driven thing with this team.
He's going to have to come up with a few more, though, because teams now are going to be watching that, and Nashville will watch that. And, that's what they do. That's what teams do.
Right. I just think it's really interesting because I feel like with Torts, it was more of a passive thing with the team, that it was just like, okay, whatever Torts says, we're going to do it and try and do it. But this feels like more of a collaborative process with Rick Tocchet, that you see Trevor Zegras doing things like this. You see Michkov working on things separately and with selected other guys to try and improve certain aspects of his game. You see the guys working on things together.
They're all working
each other.
But I feel like there's two factions on this team, not in the locker room, but on the ice. And Team Zegras doesn't include Team Michkov. And the problem with that is if Zegras continues to go on this rise and Michkov kind of stays where he is, it's going to take Michkov longer to develop. There's no question in my mind about that, because he's already a young guy. And again, there are people out there that are shocked that he has one goal at this time of the year. So that's something that I don't feel like the team is addressing at all.
Yeah, I don't know that I see that divide, especially because we did see Zegras and Michkov working together in practice quite a bit, earlier in the season and at camp. Absolutely. We saw.
Yeah, that was a while ago, though.
Sure. I get that. I just don't see how that divide could happen that quickly.
It's one of those things where I think Zegras has basically seen the need to step up his offense and sort of fill in this offensive void that Michkov filled last year. But it doesn't seem like they both can fill it at the same time. And that to me is an issue. And that's something that the coach has to blend and mend together, which I don't think he's doing.
Well, and that's where I think if that's true, what Travis Konechny had to say was really interesting, because he talked about the offensive systems that are in place with Tocchet's method here, that, before they were just the system was to get the puck up the ice and then let the chips fall where they may, right? There wasn't a rhyme or reason to it. But with Rick Tocchet, there is actually a system in the offensive zone that they're trying to execute. And so, while they're still in the earlier stages of adjusting to that and trying to execute on that on a regular basis, I think it's been hit or miss with the success of that. And Travis Konechny would be the first one to tell you that as well. I think he said that, there's a lot of battling the overthinking of it because you're trying to execute it properly. Right. And I feel like that's only natural. And that kind of dovetails what you're saying about Michkov, is that maybe he's overthinking it in some ways.
Well, he
and
may
that's
be 5
what's
on
leading
5,
to the problem.
But why can't Michkov be on the top power play? Like, what's preventing him from doing that?
And I think that
the answer is the coach.
Right. And maybe the coach thinks he hasn't earned it, because you have to earn it at 5 on 5 to get, in terms of buying into the system and executing according to the system, in order to earn the spot on the power play, which allows you a little bit more freedom.
Has everybody on the top power play earned that spot? I don't know. I think if we broke it down, that we'd find one that maybe hasn't.
Well, sure. But I think that that's a decision the coach has made. I'm not saying it's the right decision.
No, I know.
I'm just saying that's
I'm just
what it
pointing
appears
out
to have
because
been.
What stood out to me in the Montreal game was watching how early in the year they did a similar thing with Demidov, and then about a week ago they put him on the top power play, and he's scoring on the top power play because guess what? He's got those skills. Michkov has the same skills.
Yeah, I think the other factor of it now, again, with Tyson Forster out, they may have some room to shuffle things a little bit, and that would give Michkov the opportunity that you're talking about. But before, they were trying to keep the Kate's line together as part of the power play unit, and so there just really wasn't room for Michkov there.
Right, but we're talking 2 games in without Forster, and they haven't done it.
Correct.
They're giving him 30 seconds of power play. That's what they're giving him.
Right. And that's what I'm saying, is that this is where that opportunity would be. And that hasn't happened yet.
No.
So that is why I default to the Tocchet just isn't willing to do that yet, for whatever reason it is. And my supposition is that he feels like he hasn't earned it based on his 5 on 5 play. And that's all I got right now.
Gotcha.
So I just really think there are some opportunities that are being missed, but if there's a method to his madness as far as how he wants to build on implementing his systems, then I think so be it in a lot of ways. And again, I think it's really, we need another 15 to 20 games here before you can more thoroughly evaluate all of this. And, one of the main things we've been talking about is the shots on goal versus shot attempts, right? And, we didn't really address the fact that the Flyers had a metric ton of shots on goal on yesterday's show, because it was kind of, an aside to the conversation given how the game played out. But the Flyers had 72 total shot attempts in that game. And that that is a good sign and a
It
good
is.
step up, right?
Yeah, that's what you want to do. I mean, that's the shot attempts are the first step. The shots on goal is the next step. So yeah, that's what you want to do.
Right. So Travis Konechny, who has struggled with some of that indecisiveness that
Yeah.
he himself alluded to, 8 shot attempts, 7 of them unblocked, 5 on goal in that game, which is good. Right. I just think at
Yes.
a couple of key moments he didn't take the shot. And
No
so he
doubt.
just needed to add on to that
Right.
within those key moments. Right. Owen Tippett, who we've talked about at length as far as struggling scoring wise, 11 shot attempts, 9 unblocked, 6 on goal. Right. So that's
Yeah.
good, but not where it probably should be as far as what went on goal, especially considered nothing went in.
That's a factor. I mean, again, I always want to look at shots attempted, and I think that is an important thing. But then something we've been harping on for a while is shooting percentage, and then that's where they're sixth from the bottom.
Right.
And this has been for over 2 years. So this is something that Danny Briere hasn't fully addressed. This is something that the back office hasn't fully addressed. And so far, 2 different coaches have talked. Well, Tocchet talked about it outwardly. Torts didn't really that much, but neither has solved it. Why?
Right. And if you add that to the Tocchet wants more net front presence and more net front play aspect of it, you would think that there would be more rebound shots created. But in that game against Montreal, Tippett had 2. Cates, Dvorak, and Couturier 1 each. If your aim is to get net front chances and secondary chances there, because that's garbage goals in front of the net are more often secondary chances, you need more than like 5 rebound shots created.
Yes. I'm going to just bring up something that I used to do. I won't name the player, but a lot of times I would see a player who I knew had to get to the net. And when I would see him, whether it was on the road, whatever, I would ask him, "Hey, what about going to the net?" "Oh yeah. We're going to the net. We're going to do it." And he wouldn't do it. And so it's like anything else in life. If I say, Rachel, what about doing this? And you say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do it." And you don't ever do it. Like, it's just one of those things where I feel like talking about it's fine. Trying to emphasize it on the ice is fine. But I think at some point you almost have to say, if you don't do it, I'm putting somebody else on your line to do it, and you're just going to go down a line. Like, sometimes you have to be blunt about it, because I feel like it's not fair to the couple of guys that will do it and take the punishment. Like, that's part of it. You're taking punishment when you're doing that. And I think it's unfair to the rest. And so I think that's something where if it doesn't improve that way, because that does improve scoring, because let's face it, that's the best place to score in the NHL.
Yeah, well, we're going to see if any of that changes against the Nashville Predators, and we are going to talk about that, plus some trade rumors around that team coming up next.
The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making the late push. Again, I would go with the Brooklyn Nets on the under for wins in the season, because they're going to be the worst team in the NBA. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
On tomorrow's show, we are going to recap this game against the Nashville Predators, plus another early repeat customer against the Ottawa Senators. So we're going to look at how they've been doing since we saw them last, and any adjustments the Flyers need to make matching up against them this weekend. The Nashville Predators have been causing a little bit of a stir because of their play this season so far. They're 5-6-4, which is not the worst, right? It doesn't seem like it's that bad a record, but it's how it's happening, right? That there's just like this team is disheveled is the best word I can come up with. There just isn't a cohesiveness to them. And since the Flyers won against them, they've had 3 games since then. They did beat Calgary, but then lost 2 successive overtime games to Vancouver, and then Minnesota, which that goal with a displaced net was controversial to say the least.
Yeah.
But it was still a loss nonetheless. And there's just like this thing where like, okay, this has gone on long enough with promises of taking a step forward and nothing happening. Do they need to make a move here in order to change the direction of this team?
Yeah. I mean, there's only like 3 teams with fewer goals for. One of them is the Dallas Stars. So you don't worry about them. Yeah. This is a problem. Like, they're looking for goal scoring. I believe they're out there scouting for goal scoring. And I don't know if that's the right thing to do. The right thing to do might be what Barry Trotz didn't want to do in the first place. And that should be not signing those guys and start to divest of some guys so you can, have at least a retool. But they kind of are doing it the hard way. And this is what happens when you do it the hard way.
Yeah, and I think with Barry Trotz, there's a reluctance to fire the coach here, given Trotz's
Seems to
past
be because he
history
played for
as a
him.
coach,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
there's a relationship there that kind of precludes an early firing, which I think is unfortunate because sometimes that's what you have to do. And with Brunette, he has not proven that at least the pieces that they have, like he has any control over what's going on.
Listen,
with
I'd fire
team.
my own brother if his record was bad. Like, that's just the way I am. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's just one of those things that if you look preseason about everybody's predictions about which coach was going to get fired first, Andrew Brunette was like number 1 on everybody's list. And
I mean, Hiller might be number 2. Like,
right.
They're right there. They're neck and neck in my eyes. One of them will be the first coach fired.
Yeah, there just seems to be this unwillingness of Barry Trotz, at least to even hint at that being a possibility. So trading is the other route that he has to go in order to improve this team. And, the top name on that list right now is Steven Stamkos, who went from being extremely productive with Tampa to moderately so with Nashville. And, he doesn't have the same guys that he played with in Tampa. So, there is that. And so how much of it is based on line mates and, all of the residual effects there. But, in 15 games, Stamkos has 2 goals and 1 assist.
Yeah.
He did score like a really big goal in that game against the Wild to force the overtime, which they lost the game anyway. But
of course,
that being said, the rumors about Stamkos as a trade piece are definitely out there and definitely legit. I mean, Elliot Friedman talked about it. And, while I don't think it's something the Flyers would do, it's something I think the Flyers should explore at the very least and make a phone call and see what it would take, because I think he's somebody that could bring a lot to the Flyers offense.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly would probably cure some of the power play ills, but I think they would look at his age and be like, tough sell right now to the fans that we've told we're kind of trying to stay young. But somebody else on that team who's due to be a UFA, who has really only the rest of this year and next year, is Ryan O'Reilly. And that's a guy who's a top flight center. So, like, I don't know what his availability might be, but I would certainly call on him because, again, his contract is ridiculously low. It's a $4.5 million cap hit, and you get a year and a half of him. So that's something where if you want to,
and he doesn't have any clauses on his contract,
no, nothing.
It would be free and easy. Yeah.
And while he may not be in the future plans, and he might be, he certainly has 3, 4, 5 good years left. He certainly would help the team develop better because they still have a problem down the middle. And so something I would look at.
Yeah, and I think, we've talked about Owen Tippett as a trade piece.
Yeah.
That's under consideration. You could throw in a Zamula if you wanted to.
Yeah, and probably be those 2 in a pick maybe. And, it's a good offer. It's something they'd have to consider.
It would not be giving up much for the Flyers to really bolster up the center again, especially given that they sent Luchenko back and all of that. I think, O'Reilly isn't much younger than Stamkos, but it's worth a shot.
I mean, this basically, if you got him, gives Jet Luchenko 2 years to make the Flyers. And I think that's reasonable because
Yeah.
this year's done. So then next year could be in the AHL. And if he's ready at the end of the year, fine. But at least you can get to the end of O'Reilly's contract. And then if you see something before then that tells you Luchenko won't be ready, maybe you're thinking about signing him, because it's hard for them to get a center. So it's just something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say whether the Preds would be really willing to part with him, but if they're thinking that all is lost anyway and could get like significant return for him, get like 2 pieces plus a pick in return,
Right.
you got to think about that if you're Barry Trotz, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's something he has to take back to the owner and at least talk to him about.
Right.
Say,
Now,
this still doesn't hurt us that bad. Yes, we'll hurt down the middle a little bit. We'll get, maybe they'll get a first or a second. It'll be one or the other. And we get another defenseman we could throw in there now.
It's definitely worth for Danny Briere to make that phone call and see what's possible. There have been other rumors about Philip Forsberg, which I'm very doubtful about.
Yeah, I'm
just
dubious
because
on that.
He's got a no movement clause there, so that's
and
a
he
hurdle.
has it for a reason. Like, he likes it there. I don't really think he wants to go anywhere. I don't think he would go anywhere. Not yet.
Right, and he's not a UFA till 2030, so that's like a long contract at 8.5 to take on, and I just don't see any retention as a possibility there at all.
Right.
So I don't think for the Flyers it makes sense. I think, Nashville could trade him and there could be a willing trade partner out there, but I don't think the Flyers are that one.
No.
But your point about O'Reilly is a good one, and I think that of any of these guys on the Preds, that is the one I would certainly go for at this point, for sure. But we will see how they match up this time. I'm sure the Preds are going to be looking to make up for the last time around with that not great loss for them. I think Saros will be back in net again, and we'll see how it goes.
And they'll probably control the puck for half the game and probably not score.
Yeah, that's probably true. But the only difference, obviously, will be it's on the road. So the Preds will have last change, and that's going to be the challenge.
And what about Roman Josi? What's his status?
Roman Josi's still on IR. So
that's the same, basically the same lineup.
Basically the same lineup as we saw the last time around for Nashville. So to be continued, we'll talk about it on tomorrow's show. In the meantime, we have some prospects to catch up on a little bit and some news about Dallas coming up next.
Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. Visit Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL to get 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNHL so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves.
So before we touch base on Porter Martone and one other Flyers prospect here, the Dallas Stars were awarded the 2027 Stadium Series game, which I found to be interesting. There's like 2 things going on here with that. Number one, it is very clearly Gary Bettman's legacy move to try and say, look at what I've done in the South, because he's got his 2 Florida outdoor games and now he's adding Dallas to the mix. And, when he's like almost on his way out the door, he just wants to say, look at what I have done. Right. So that, to me, that's entirely what's going on there.
And a lot of attendance. It's a big place.
Yes, it's a huge venue I think it's, what is it? I just call it Dallas Stadium because I don't really know, but because it's football. But is it AT&T?
It's AT&T, yeah.
Yeah, but does anybody call it that?
I don't know.
But at any rate, The question I have about it is the fact that it's a retractable roof. And to me, outdoor games are outdoor games. And if you're marketing your stadium series / winter classic as outdoor games and taking your game to the roots and playing it outdoors the way it's meant to be, if you have a roof on that building, I don't know. I don't love that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And I think that's also what's going on because it's indoors in Miami too. And so this is one of those things. Either you have it outdoor and sloshy like it was years ago at Dodger Stadium, I think it was, or this. So, like, it's a point well taken. I don't have a great comeback other than you have called it an outdoor game. You'll make it look like an outdoor game.
And put like cotton out there and
That's
fake
what they
snow.
did.
I don't know.
Well, that's what they did. I was at the Cotton Bowl game, and that was outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in Texas. So, and that was fine.
Right.
Like, that worked out fine.
Yep. So hopefully they keep the roof open for this one.
Be interesting
There's
to see if they do.
also a weird lawsuit going on with the Mavericks and the Stars, where the Stars are apparently not paying what they owe for some labor costs. That's not great either. So awarding Dallas a big premier event when something like that's going on is a little dicey as well.
It was a little weird because I don't think it would have been talked about if it didn't have a press conference for it. And then Gary Bettman talked about it being a frivolous lawsuit. And he may be right, but it did sort of bring that to light where, like, we didn't know about it. We wouldn't even be talking about it.
No, that's like local city politics kind of stuff that we wouldn't know about.
Right.
But at any rate, to be continued on that. In the meantime, there is a U20 tournament taking place in Europe right now. That's Five Nations. And Max Westergard, Flyers' recent draft pick, is playing for Team Finland there. This is kind of a precursor to World Juniors, but just some of the European teams there. And he had a hat trick and an assist, 4-point game, really good shots. The assist especially I thought was very good in the highlights I saw. And I think he's just a prospect for me that has like a sneaky good chance of maybe like slowly but surely building himself into a legit prospect.
Yeah, he's got some offensive ability. He's got decent stick and puck control. I liked his shot when I saw him last and thought it was sneaky good. And I remember I watched a fair amount of video on him. And so, this proves it. We'll see as he moves up the ladder, can he keep doing that? Like, that'll be the challenge. But for now, it's good news.
Yeah, really love to see that. Porter Martone update. It's really interesting because Jet Luchenko got sent back to junior. I feel like Porter Martone is the number one Flyers prospect.
Yeah, I don't think there's a debate, is there? Is there anybody debating that?
I don't think so, but I think in terms of readiness for the NHL and who's actually going to get there first, like, I don't think it's going to be at the same time anymore. I think Martone gets to the NHL first, right?
Yeah, I think so too.
As far as sticking it out. We know Luchenko has gotten some games, but I think the debate over is Martone going to only have 1 year of college?
Yeah, that
is starting to ratchet up right now a little bit because he's having some early success. 3 goals and 6 assists for 9 points in 6 games so far. So it's 1.5 points per game to start his college career as a freshman. And that is pretty good.
See, this is one of those situations where, again, it'll depend how their season ends. He'll probably talk to Shane Van Sage and say, what are you doing? And, more likely than not, Van Sage goes back, especially if he's getting NIL money, because that's going to be better than anything else he could do yet. So there's still a good chance he goes back, especially if they feel like, hey, we came really close. We could win a national championship next year, and I could pocket some money. So I don't think it's not as cut and dry as it once was like 5 years ago.
Right. And I think that's fair. I think the decision will be made at the end of the season for sure. But I think the way things have started out, the possibility is certainly there that he could make the jump next year and nobody would be surprised by that. And, I think looking at his season so far at Michigan State, they've played some really difficult opponents so far. I mean, they had those 2 games against Boston University, which we talked about. They've won 2 games against Northern Michigan. But this weekend is the big test, I think, for this Michigan State team where they've got 2 games in a row against Penn State.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So Yeah, we'll see. They're in the coaches poll. They're definitely a top team, and we'll see. We'll see how they perform in this, and then we'll see how they perform. Those games with Michigan State against Michigan are a big deal, and it's a pressure cooker. And so that's
Right.
something too that's going to be an experience.
Well, and the next games after Penn State are against Notre Dame and then Wisconsin. So, then they've got a little bit of a break with Colgate and then they play Michigan. So they
Right.
don't have a lot of downtime really
No,
as
and
far as
Colgate's better
opponents
than they
go.
used to be too. They're starting to produce
Yeah.
some NHL talent.
So I think keeping track of what Porter Martone does in these big game situations is going to be important to see, what that decision could end up being at the end of the season. But so far, so good.
Yep.
And looking forward to seeing how the big showdown goes against Penn State and the big showdown against Nashville for the Flyers, which we're going to talk about on tomorrow's show, as well as the game against the Senators that is happening on Saturday. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. If you've got mailbag questions you want us to answer, let us know on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen. Today, for your next listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. It's every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. You can get local analysis on a national scale with NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.